We are Makilala TV, the first Filipino-American TV talk show in the New York metro area. Get to know us as we talk to the community leaders, innovators, advocates, and emerging artists who affect Filipino-American life.
One of my favorite stories about why Filipinos do not excel in math and science goes something like this. Every time there's a Filipino party, the parents would usually ask their children to sing and dance. Have you ever seen children who are asked to show their skills in algebra? Among Asian American children, we Filipinos don't fit the mold. The Asian Americans are usually math and science proficient. Filipinos are known to be good in reading and language and social arts, such as music, maybe dance and performing, because as a culture, we are very expressive. What does it take for us to excel at both? Why have we developed a self-locking mechanism when it comes to mathematical formula and scientific concepts? Why does it feel like we're wired differently from other Asians? With us today to discuss this very timely topic are math teacher Ronie Mataquel, science teacher Marvin Cadornigara, and Bronx science student Reese Villazor. Rachelle, Cristina, and I would like to welcome you to Makilala TV. So the first question, Ronie, the way you teach math to your teachers here in the U.S., was it the same way you were taught in the Philippines?
Basically, math is really like the same wherever you go. So like teaching mathematics actually it's funny because over here I do exactly the same thing, but we just we incorporate the vocabulary. It's funny because like this is American, it's supposed to be like they know the words already, but we put in vocabularies and I teach them how to annotate. It's kind of like different. A lot of scaffolding when you're teaching here compared to the Philippines. Kind of like you give them the math problems, the students do it. Over here you kind of like scaffold it a little bit because the level is kind of like different.
Scaffolded, what do you mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like instead of
embellish.
You're doing word problems instead of like adding 1 plus 1, you give a little bit more for them to understand.
Complex questions.
For them to understand that really 1 plus 1 is 2.
So it's not more about memorization, it's more of understanding the concept, but behind 1 plus 1 equals 2.
Yes, it's kind of like you want to give them like extra for them to like their retention gonna be.
Can you give an example of that, Ronie? Because I cannot grasp.
Okay, like for example, when we're doing actually like word problems, we give them a lot of like examples for them to come up with a certain answer. It's not like when I'm doing like for example graphing of a linear equation y equals x plus 2, like for example, you just don't directly do the graph. I have to do like the tables and then create the points, and you put the points and then you connect the you connect the lines. So it's kind of like in the Philippines when I'm teaching, I just give them the graph, and by just counting, my students could just like.
It's like in the Philippines, you spoon feed your students. Is that?
I would say like in the Philippines, like from priors, like elementary or even like in the early grades, we spoon feed them, and at the same time, there's a mastery.
Oh.
Yeah, I think with math, it's finite. You can't make it up. You can't like improvise. I mean, 1 plus 1 will always be 2. So, and then you multiplication table, you still have to memorize them.
Yeah.
So there is no other way but to remember it.
But let me ask Reese, when you learn math, multiplication tables, do you do a lot of memory work? The way you learn it here. Of course, you never had an experience learning it in the Philippines.
Well, I do some memory work, but it's mostly about understanding the concepts and knowing how to do it, which involves memory, but it's also not just doing it from like mind, but it's understanding what you're doing.
That's not how we were taught, right? When we
Well,
were
I have
taught,
to count 7,
1
1,
times
2.
7, 7, 2 times 7, 14, right? Is
Seven
the
Well, I think also in New York, they have this common core, which helps supplement that reasoning of knowing the concepts of how 2 times 2 equals 4.
That's right. I think Marvin is an expert on Common Core, right?
Yes, sure. So am I responding to the question? If there's a difference in the way I was taught and in the way I'm teaching right now in New York City, I could say that it's entirely different in the sense that, of course, for one, it's an entirely different time. And for me, I was taught science. I learned science in a traditional way, and I can say that based on my experience, it was purely mindset. I come to the classroom and then listen to the teacher with a mindset that I'm going to learn what the teacher teaches me regardless of the way the teacher teaches me. But my experience with teaching New York City kids is entirely different in the sense that there is a need for engagement and there's a need for anticipatory setting before I can get my students to learn. And that has become a challenge for me to just simply move out of what I was taught and what I am comfortable, the way I was learning, and this is now an entirely different world, so in an entirely different generation. So there is a challenge that I have to keep myself abreast with whatever is needed for the time.
Reese, you were nodding your head when he was speaking.
Yeah.
And do you agree with him?
Yeah, I do believe that the way that I'm being taught, it's really about engaging with me, the student, and the other students. And it's not always about the material, but it's also about the way that the teacher teaches it.
How do you engage? Do you make it math and science applicable to daily lives, for example? Is that a way of engaging students?
Yeah, for me, there should always be a connection to real life, and in a way that the lesson is not purely just written in the books, but it should come out of the books and become realities in their lives. So what I have experienced with my students, the engagement comes in when they feel that they're connected to the lesson. Let's say for example, we have lessons on electrical circuit, and we bring in kits for each one of them working in the group to create their own new device, and that is where their creativity comes in and critical thinking, and then devising a new way for something new to work is something that challenges them and initially engages them to do something more than what is presented to them.
I think also Reese's generation, you have all the information in your fingertips. So even before you get to class, even before say Ronie and Marvin explain about math and science, you probably have an idea of what they're going to talk about. So was there ever a time in classroom where the teacher was saying something and either you didn't agree or it just wasn't clicking, it wasn't it's not clear? So how do you go about with that situation?
When I don't understand a concept in my classes, then I usually go back to the textbook and try and read over the material that I was learning in class. And then if that doesn't work, then I reach out to my friends or to the teacher and say, hi, I don't really understand this kind of concept. Would you mind helping me understand it? Which is one thing that I really like about how I learn now, because I never feel like there's any shame in asking for help in understanding something I don't know.
I love that she didn't say, I just Googled it. You actually used the textbook.
Do you, what was I about to ask? Do you get a math tutor?
Currently, I don't have a math tutor.
You don't have a math tutor. Ronie, do you need a math tutor to be competitive in math in school?
Actually, based on my experience here in New York City, you really don't need to get math tutor.
You do not need.
As long as the kid, I think, is listening to this, because to the teacher, teaching in high school is really it's supposed to be fine. We have a lot of resources right now, not in the Philippines, that we're not using calculators. So here it's required. Each students need to have a calculator. So when you're teaching math, you don't really have to teach them how to do the fundamental operations already, because we have the calculator here. The only problem is, I think students here are just lazy.
I mean, you're talking about American students in general?
In general.
Really? Oh my God, okay.
Yeah, so they just go to school and then they go home. and they don't even bother to look at their homework. And maybe while on the bus, that's the time that they
Wow.
copy.
Do you tell that to your students?
I'm telling that my students right now, because of the technology that we have, it's easy for them to just take picture and then send it to the student. Even for exams right now, that's the problem that we have in school.
There is
So-
that article that just came out about this extensive cheating ring that has been happening for years in elite schools in New York. How do teachers deal with that? I've heard of students actually going into teachers' rooms and stealing exams.
Math and science exams?
Yes,
Wow.
like very intense cheating. So how do teachers compete with that
I think
and
that-
technology?
How do you catch them?
I think the reason for that also is like right here in New York City, we're kind of like everything is numbers now. When I started teaching in 2003, they didn't care if your students, the whole class failed, or only 2, 3, 4, or 5 students. This time they're really trying to monitor if we're doing our job as a teacher, reaching out to parents, students, or even to like coworkers that we have. So at the end of the year, the end of the day, they're asking how many of the students learn from your class, or how many are not getting. How did you find out if they learn or not, or why are they failing? Why are you not doing something else? I think that's where cheating is coming from, because you want at the end of the day you want your kids to pass the test, or like at the same time you want that good result from them.
I was thinking that technology is supposed to help students understand
That's
the
true.
lesson, not to make them lazy.
But now
Exactly.
there's people,
Marvin?
there's like even kids that can't even count change when they're in the register.
Really?
Like, yeah, because they're so used to doing things on
punching
their
in
phone
everything.
that they don't know how to do tip.
Is that true, Reese? Do you see that among your friends?
I mean, among my friends who are good at math, and we usually just do it in our head. But I have
You
seen
do it in your head?
Well,
Like
I
if you go in a restaurant, you can calculate the taxes that you have to add to your bill?
well, sometimes, but I mean, we do use the calculator on our phone though sometimes. But
Like,
That's
how do
right.
you feel as teachers? And when a student comes to you and go like, you know what? I didn't like biology, or I didn't like algebra, but then the way you taught it, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, it clicked, and I want to learn more.
Yeah, how do you inspire your students?
I think
Or Marvin, yeah.
I think it all starts with you as a teacher showing your concern with the students and identifying that somehow in each one of them there is a need, and it's just about connecting to them and letting them know that whatever your difficulty in the classroom, I am here to help you. And it's just about inspiring students to tell me right now what made you think that the subject is, or biology, for example, is very difficult for you. And in that sense, the student will feel that the teacher is here to help me and to teach me, not to impress me of what he learned in college and what he learned in school. And I'm bringing all these concepts into the classroom, and I'm just merely looking at my teacher making himself or making an impression that he is so far the best person
teacher, yeah.
to teach the subject. But it should be that we need to make them feel that we are here to care. And even going back to the use of technology when we're talking about earlier, I'm a fan of technology used in the classroom. In fact, I have used and I have innovated so much in my classroom. I brought social media in my classroom. We used digital portfolio in my classroom for my 6th grade science class. But then again, before we use all these technologies, there should be a requirement for teachers to teach digital literacy and responsibilities among our students.
Ronie?
That's true. I heard that a lot of question, like when I'm teaching math. So most of the time, like the first day of class, second day, most of my students would really say, like, I hate math. I don't I don't understand, and I've been failing math.
Yeah.
And for some reason, for this, I think this is my 4th year already. I'm really doing remedial classes now for math.
okay.
I started work teaching honors classes in here when I came to New York City, but maybe because of like I'm so like compassionate, I show care to my students, and eventually my administrator would say like, "Oh, Ronie, you're starting today. You're going to be teaching remedial classes."
Okay.
So if you just you just have to let them feel that math is okay to fail. Math is okay to make mistakes and everything. So I really do starts from the basic, to be honest. So sometimes it's funny, but I do give them like very easy questions for the first 5 minutes. I give them like multiplication problems, the easy one, or maybe division and everything. And they feel that if they can do multiply without a calculator, kind of like it's a success already for the day. And then the following day, they can do another one math problem. And eventually, I'm going to continue with the real.
Until it becomes harder and harder.
Harder and harder. And they said, that's the one that I don't like with you, Mr. Mataquel, because you give us easy questions, and all of a sudden, boom, there's another question that, like, you know, it's out of it's out of the world that they can
Reese,
figure out.
do you have teachers that inspire you? Who do you say your math and science teachers are inspiring teachers?
Right now, I particularly like my biology teacher.
Oh, okay.
And because I feel like he really cares about what he's teaching, which I think is another good trait of a teacher when they have a teaching method that I understand and I learn best in, and when I know the material that they're talking about, and then when they honestly care about what they're teaching and they really enjoy teaching. So
that's great. I think Reese is prepared a little presentation, science presentation, which we hope we will understand. Reese, do you want to deliver your presentation? Do you want to stand up, or you just sit down? Okay,
sit down.
Sure.
So
the topic is about how human behavior affects the environment and leads to climate change, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So climate change is defined as a gradual increase in temperature around the globe, and this is caused by human actions such as cars. With the carbon dioxide that comes out from cars, this affects the environment, and then it causes this gradual increase in temperature. But not only an increase in temperature, it also creates heavier rainfall, and then the melting glaciers. We all know about the whole polar bears and how they're losing their home due to climate change. And then, so this effect on the environment is caused by us, humans.
Yeah.
And then our use of cars that use carbon dioxide. So a way that we can alleviate this is by using environmentally cars.
That's right.
Yeah, taking public transportation, so that way we aren't using our cars so much, and we just rely on like a train or by walking, and then recycling as well.
Do you
so
think
Professor
that
Marvin, what do you think is the grade for that presentation?
Honestly, I would give her an excellence score.
Wow.
'Cause I'm used to hearing that presentation. It was very, very impressive.
Yeah, that's
Thank you for
right.
the research behind that, Reese. Right?
So climate change was not caused by the Chinese.
Wait.
No.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, that is the key question for climate change specifically is, how do we prove that it's from human activity? But thank you so much for that presentation. I thought it was really good.
Thank you.
So how many miles do we need to walk a day?
Yeah, how many
Really
miles?
applying math over here.
So not a lot of people know that, right? We keep talking about climate change, but not a lot of people have the understanding that you have. How do you impart that, Marvin?
Well, there's always a challenge that I pose among my students, giving them a picture of a polar bear grappling for a space on a declining iceberg, and the discussion would begin from there. So I'm not telling them and asking them a question. They are formulating their own questions, and they're exploring all the possibilities of what caused this phenomenon to happen and where does this lead us. So it's a good way of engaging students. And from there, there's a discussion.
So Reese, do your parents help you with math problems?
Oh no, they're lawyers.
Did you just say what?
Did
No
you say
lawyers.
no, they're lawyers?
No, they're lawyers. That's why they don't help
You know
you
what?
with math.
They need math because then they have to add up all that hours.
Well, I'm sure that they, as lawyers, that they are people that you look up to, though.
Yes. Yes.
Are you planning to go into a science career after college?
Well, although I do really enjoy science and what I'm learning in science right now, I find myself more inclined towards history and towards English.
Oh, okay. Back to being Filipino.
I'm reviewing science and math, but I use Khan Academy. What do you think about that? I mean,
Wait,
there's
what
resources.
academy?
Khan,
Academy.
Khan Academy.
What
It's
is that?
free.
Oh,
It's free, and then let's say you have a question about chemistry, about algebra.
Can we mention that?
I know.
I mean, it's a public, it's a non-profit.
Oh, is it?
Well,
And then-
Reese
It's
was
an app.
nodding her head.
Oh,
Have
it's
you
an
heard
app?
of this before?
I used Khan Academy when I was younger, in
Oh,
4th and 5th
Yeah.
grade.
Oh, fourth and fifth
We
grade.
actually encourage our students to use that also because it's free. It's just
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Wow.
It's free resource
they're-
out there. I mean, it's a technology that's actually doing something good.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to learn about English, you want to learn about biology. I mean, that's
Almost
one
every single
resources.
subject, yeah.
But that doesn't replace a teacher.
No,
Oh.
it does not.
No.
So, like, how do you make teaching fun? Like we said, like
Yeah.
something that could keep the kids in school is to make learning fun. So, in math, how do you make it fun?
You really have to use those resources around us, like the resources that actually students are familiar. So if we're talking about like cars, maybe they can go out one day and then they can count, and then what happened if there's like more cars and less cars, and what's the we're talking about the effect in the environment, and we can make maybe a study like how many cars do we have for every household, something like that. Like
Like how many miles does it take to go from point A to point
Kids
B?
love the ways that as long as they can relate, I think they're interested.
What about in science?
Well, I believe teaching is a performance rather than a capability. So I believe that we can bring the learning more into the classroom when there's both hands-on and hearts-on. And with hearts-on and hands-on, I think that those areas, technology will definitely fail. So we still need the teachers in the classroom.
What about you? Like quick 10-second bites. Like how do you make science and how do you make learning fun? My opening is longer.
Well, I think that learning is fun by itself, although there are other factors that make learning more fun for me, such as when I was younger in my math classes, sometimes we would use the school computers and we would play these math games where you had to solve what is 2 times 14, and you have to solve that, and with each question you would get closer to the finish line. And then so that's one way that made me engaged in math when I was younger, which I think really helped me become interested in math
We
overall.
used to do that too,
That is
right?
awesome.
You step forward
Yeah.
until you get to the blackboard.
More of like
Yeah.
competitive.
That's right. That's the one that we do in the Philippines.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I think we should do a lot of science and math
Yeah.
competitions.
Yes.
Just for the Filipino community, so that it's something different, something new, that's something that will totally change kids' mindset. I mean, I am bad in math, but the more I say about it, maybe I should change that one. See, there's a lot of insight to digest right now. I mean, thanks so much to our guests, Ronie and Marvin and Reese. Wouldn't it be great if the Philippines would be known as a nation of entertainers? But before I continue on, I just want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for making time, for making science and math really fun and understandable. So as a nation of, we don't want Filipinos just to be a nation of entertainers, beauty queens, boxers, talk show hosts, and we also want it to be a biochemist and physicist. So before we go, we would like to entertain you with a lively number from Denise Cara. This 8-year-old powerhouse will sing her original composition, Friend in Me. So let's give a big warm applause for Denise. Take it away.
You got Fred, Evita. You got a Fred. Hey, pick yourself up today. Let me see that smile. And hey, it's gonna be a-okay. Trust me, you'll be fine. I'm someone who's always here for you. I'm someone who'll always help you through. You got a friend in me. Easy as 1, 2, 3. You can always count on me. F-R-I-E-D. You got a friend to be. You got a friend in me. No matter what you need, you can always count on me. F-R-I-E-D. You got a friend to be. Stop worrying all the time. Life's too good for that. You should know that I always have your back. I'm someone who's always here for you. I'm someone who always help you through. You got a friend in me. Easy as 1, 2, 3. You can always count on me. Friend. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. No matter what you need, you can always count on me. Friend. You got a friend in me. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. You got a friend in me. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. You got a friend. You got a friend in me. Easy as 1, 2, 3. You can always count on me. Friend. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. No matter what you need, you can always count on me. Friend. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. Easy as 1, 2, 3. You can always count on me. Friend. You got a friend in me. You got a friend in me. No matter what you need, you can always count on me. Friend. You got a friend in me. Friend in me.